For most of history, that dollar in your wallet was actually a promise. It was a claim check for a real, physical thing, gold. But then, almost overnight, the rules for money changed for the entire world. And that one change turned the age-old advice to save your money into a losing strategy. The wealthy figured this out, and they started playing by a new set of rules. They learned how to literally invent money. So let's break down exactly how they did it.
It all happened on a single day, August 15th, 1971. That's the day President Nixon went on TV and announced that the United States would no longer trade dollars for gold. And in that one moment, poof, the promise was broken. The US dollar stopped being money in the traditional sense, and it became something totally different, a currency.
So what's the big deal? Well, a dollar backed by gold was tied to something real and finite. The government couldn't just print more gold, right? But this new thing, fiat currency, is different. Fiat is just a fancy Latin word for by decree. It means the money only has value because the government says it does. And here's the crucial part. It means they can print as much of it as they want.
And that leads us to a really stark conclusion from Robert Kiyosaki. I mean, think about it. If you can print an unlimited supply of something, what happens to its value? It goes down. That's inflation, and it means the cash you're carefully stashing away is losing its buying power every single day. So the old rules, work hard, save money, suddenly became a recipe for falling behind.
Okay, so if saving is a losing game, what's the alternative? Well, this is where the rich started playing an entirely different game. They don't hoard cash, they invest it. But even more important than that, they focus on developing what Kiyosaki calls their financial IQ. It's all about learning to solve financial problems and seeing opportunities that absolutely everyone else misses.
So what exactly is financial intelligence? It has nothing to do with your grades in school or your traditional IQ. It's a way of thinking. It's the mental muscle you use to solve money problems. It's about training your brain to spot deals. See, your greatest asset isn't your bank account, it's your mind. Because money isn't really a thing anymore, it's an idea. And the wealthy get rich simply by having better ideas.
And this way of thinking is really built on 4 key pillars. First, you've got to learn accounting. That's the language of money. If you can't read the numbers, you're flying blind. Second is investing, which is the science of making your money work for you so you don't have to. Third, you have to understand markets, the raw, simple power of supply and demand. And finally, you have to know the law, things like tax advantages and corporations that protect you. You combine these 4 things, and suddenly what used to look like a problem starts to look a lot like profit.
Now, I know that might sound a little abstract, so let's get into a real-world example from the source material to see how this actually works. This is the story of how Kiyosaki took these ideas and created a valuable asset pretty much out of thin air.
So here is the central puzzle of this whole thing. How is it even possible to generate $60,000 in profit when you're starting with $0 of your own? I mean, it sounds crazy, right? Let's walk through it. It all started back in the early 90s. The real estate market in Phoenix had just crashed. And while everyone else was running scared, Kiyosaki saw a huge opportunity.
He found this foreclosed house in a really nice neighborhood. The bank was asking $60 grand for it, but he knew they were desperate to get it off their books. So he threw in a lowball offer, $50,000, and they took it. Now, of course, he didn't actually have the $50,000.
So what did he do first? He went right back to a different bank and used the house itself as collateral to get a loan for $45,000. So he's almost there, but still short.
For that last $5,000, he didn't reach into his own pocket? No way! He went to a friend, offered him a promissory note, basically an IOU with a nice interest rate, and got the cash. And just like that, he controlled a $60,000 property without spending a single penny of his own money.
So now that he controlled the house, he immediately put an ad in the local paper. But he didn't list it for what he paid. He advertised it for $75,000. The phone started ringing off the hook. He found a qualified buyer, they signed the papers, and the buyer's new loan money completely paid off his $45,000 bank loan and the $5 grand he owed his friend.
The math on that first part is super simple. He sold it for $75 grand. He used that to pay off the 2 loans, which totaled $50 grand, and that left him with a cool $25,000 profit. That's $25 grand created purely from knowing how to structure a deal. But believe it or not, that's not even the genius part.
Okay,
This is where he truly invented money. See, the new buyer couldn't get a traditional bank loan, so Kiyosaki became the bank. Instead of the buyer making mortgage payments to a big bank, they were going to make payments to him. By doing this, he created a brand new financial asset out of thin air. A piece of paper, a promissory note that was worth $75,000.
So now he has this asset he just created, the $75,000 IOU. He then took that piece of paper to another investor, someone who was looking for a steady monthly income, and he sold it to him for $60,000 in cold hard cash. The investor gets the long-term payments, and Kiyosaki walks away with 60 grand. In just a few weeks, he created $60,000, not from luck, but from pure financial intelligence.
Now hold on. It is absolutely critical to understand that this is not a license to go out and be reckless. I mean, critics would rightly point out that a deal like this is incredibly risky if you don't know what you're doing. The thing that separates a smart move from a disaster isn't guts, it's knowledge.
And this quote just nails it. What looks like a crazy, wild gamble to you or me was for Kiyosaki just the next logical step. He says that to the financially illiterate, bold moves look risky, but to the financially intelligent, they're logical. It was his high financial IQ, knowing the market, knowing financing, knowing the law, that made it a smart move. Without that foundation, it's just a gamble.
So let's be crystal clear here. The point of this story isn't to tell you to go flip houses with no money down. It's to show you what's possible when you invest in your own financial education first. See, a calculated risk is based on knowledge. It's based on understanding the market and the rules of the game. Gambling, that's just based on hope. And that's financial suicide. They are not the same thing.
So, the big question is, how do you even start to build this kind of intelligence without taking those massive risks? Well, you can't just read about it in a book, you actually have to do something. So here is a practical, actionable challenge inspired directly by the source material that you can start today. It's called the 100 Property Challenge. And before you panic, no, I am not telling you to go out and buy 100 properties. I'm telling you to go analyze 100 properties.
So here's the mission should you choose to accept it. Over the next 30 days, find 100 properties for sale online, right in your area. For every single one, run the numbers. What's the asking price? What's the likely rent? What are the taxes? Will it actually make money each month? Then, make a mock offer. Decide what you would pay for it. If you want a bonus, go to a few open houses on the weekend. Talk to the agents. This whole exercise costs you $0, only your time. But it will train your brain to see patterns, to spot deals, and to build real, unshakable confidence.
You see, at the end of the day, financial intelligence isn't really about being a math genius. It's about learning how to solve problems. And the more financial problems you can solve for yourself and maybe even for others, the wealthier you have the potential to become. So the real question this all leaves us with is this: what problem will you commit to learning how to solve?